Hi, I am your instructor for UNIV 1113 at University of Georgia, summer 2018. This is Kelsey, and this is the scientific writing video. And this will be based on the Duke Scientific Writing resource that's available online. You're welcome to Google that. I'm using a new screencasting tool, so this might have to be cut into two videos. I'm not sure. So if that's the case, I'll let you know at the end, and you'll be looking for a video part 2. So there are 3 main ideas that you're going to need to address when you're trying to achieve good scientific writing. There's a difference between science writing and scientific writing. Science writing is when we write about science, but it's kind of for the public. So if you get on a blog and you're reading a science blog, that's science writing, and it is supposed to inform you, but it's also supposed to be kind of informal and entertaining. Scientific writing is different. This is when we're writing about the process of science, or we've done science, and we want it to be for a different, more formal, professional science audience. So again, there's three kind of criteria that we're going to be looking at. The first we're going to classify as subjects and actions. The second is cohesion and emphasis, and the third is simplicity. Now, under subjects and actions, this is going to be a lot about breaking down the parts of the sentence and looking at subjects and verbs and how they're fit together. Cohesion and emphasis is going to look at organization of a paragraph. Where are you putting new information, and what types of verbs are you using? And then simplicity is kind of confronting an age-old problem of feeling a need to sound smart. Sometimes we think that if we use really big words and we use lots of extra phrases in our sentences, that we sound a lot smarter than we do. And we don't. There's no need to do that. So let's take a look at each of these groups. First, subjects and actions. So the first part of that is putting your actions in the verbs. And the key here is to avoid nominalization. Nominalization is when we make a noun out of a verb. So the verb to analyze, we might say, we did an analysis. There's so many more words in there. We could have said, we analyzed. Much shorter. To investigate is the verb. To do a nominalization of that, or to make a noun out of that, becomes investigation. So we performed an investigation. It's much easier to say we investigated. And then last, to research becomes research. And these are just 3 examples, but there's a lot of different times when people use nominalization, and it just makes your sentences sound a lot wordier. So throughout this video, you'll see red examples and green examples. Sorry for those of you who are red-green colorblind. And the red examples are the bad ones, and the green examples are the good ones. So we performed research on the geologic history of Mars. Much easier to just say, we researched the geologic history of Mars. It's shorter. You're not making a nominalization out of research. This is the better choice. The second key to subjects and actions is putting characters in the subjects. What that means is that the main character should be the subject of the paragraph, and that you should try to keep that the same through the paragraph. This is going to be one that's easier to see in this example. The track of the rover across the surface should allow the rover to analyze multiple AOIs. Really, what's the subject of that? Is it really the track of the rover across the surface? Or is it that the rover is going to go along this path, and in taking that path, it can analyze multiple areas of interest? So here, we're starting the sentence with something that's not really the subject. The subject is actually the rover. Then the next sentence, the composition and structure of outcrops will be measured by tools on the rover. Okay, measured by tools on the rover. Here, again, tools on the rover. It seems like the rover is the subject. And then in the third sentence, in this way, the tools of the rover help to accomplish the science goals of the mission? Again, is it really the tools or is it the rover? And it seems like there's an opportunity to give this paragraph some cohesion by starting all of these with a unified subject being the rover. This paragraph is actually about the rover, but it seems like it's about the track, the composition and structure, the tools. It's not. It's all about the rover. So I'm going to read this green paragraph. It's the way to change it around. The rover will travel to and analyze multiple AOIs. The rover's tools will measure the composition and structure of the outcrops. Rover exploration will therefore support the science goals of the mission. So here, it's not that we're starting the sentence the same way every time, but it's that everything here has to do with the rover. All of the subjects are related to the rover. The rover itself, the rover's tools, the rover's exploration. This is going to make the paragraph seem really unified, and it's going to make sure that whatever is at the beginning of the sentence is really what we're framing the rest of the sentence around. So the last one, this is kind of the easiest one to check for, is keeping the subjects near the verbs. And it's about when you read, if there's a lot of words or time in between you reading the subject and you reading the verb, sometimes you're going to forget what the subject was. People do this. So in the sentence, physically, they need to be close together. It helps you keep track of who is doing what. So in the bad example, the camera on the rover will have a resolution of 5 millimeters per pixel, which will allow it to scan the outcrops for changes in the appearance of the rock. This sounds really scientific. But we have all this business about the resolution in here. Is it really the resolution that's allowing it to scan for changes in the outcrop? Or is it just that the camera does this and it's like, hey, thanks, we've got this resolution. So let's read a better sentence. The rover's camera will scan the outcrop for changes in rock appearance with 5 millimeters per pixel resolution. This is much better. We don't have to try to remember if there's different cameras. Like, is there one camera with 5 millimeter resolution and another with 10? This is just the more succinct way to say it, keeping the subject near the verb. So now we're on to the second part, which is cohesion and emphasis. And this first part of cohesion and emphasis is putting new information last. This is going to help keep sentences in a single paragraph coherent. It's going to help them transition from one sentence to the next. And the point here is that if I read one sentence and then the next sentence seems to start with new information that I've never heard of before, I'm going to get a little lost. So let's read this bad example. Impact craters are depressions on the surface of a planet created by the bombardment of asteroids. Ejecta blankets, rims, walls, and floors are the main parts of the crater. Sorry for the typo. Floors are the main parts of the crater. Now, if I'm reading this and I know all about craters, it really doesn't come as a huge surprise to me to start reading these words. I've seen them before. So I'm less likely, as someone who works on these things, to catch these kinds of errors. But pretend you've no idea what an impact crater is. If you start a sentence with ejecta blankets, you're like, whoa, what's an ejecta blanket? So, I guess that made my dogs bark. So we need to start these sentences. I guess this is a good time to pause the video. Sorry, I'll start the second video here soon.